Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really diving into maritime history, specifically the story of Holland America Line.
Right. You, our listeners, shared a really detailed Wikipedia entry with us.
Yeah, it's incredibly comprehensive, and our plan is to sort of navigate through more than a century of this company's life.
Pulling out the key moments, the big shifts.
Exactly. And see how it went from, its original purpose to the big cruise line we know today.
Okay, let's get started.
So where does it begin? The founding, right?
Yeah, back in 1873 in Rotterdam, Netherlands.
And it wasn't called Holland America Line then?
No, not originally. It was the Netherlands America Steamship Company, NASM for short, or Holland America Line, HAL in Dutch.
Got it. And their goal was pretty straightforward at first.
Pretty much set up regular trips across the Atlantic, passengers and cargo.
Connecting Rotterdam with North America, so really a vital link.
Absolutely. For trade and definitely for people moving, for migration.
And they didn't hang about, did they? The first trip was even before the official founding.
Sort of, yeah. The first ship, the Rotterdam, the very first one.
The first of many Rotterdam.
Exactly. That first one sailed in October 1872, from Rotterdam over to Hoboken.
15 days, imagine that. With stops? Where were they?
Boulogne in France and Plymouth in the UK, standard route back then.
And the fleet grew pretty quickly after that.
It did. By 1883, they had ships like the W.A. Schulten, the P. Cowan.
But didn't that first Rotterdam sink relatively early on?
It did, yeah, sank in 83. But they replaced it pretty fast. The Rotterdam II was ready by 1885.
Shows commitment, I guess. Reinvesting quickly.
Definitely. They needed to keep that service running reliably.
And around the same time, they got their visual identity sorted. The flag.
Right, around 1885, the first house flag. Simple design, green, white, green stripes.
Taken from the Rotterdam city flag, wasn't it?
It's the one. And what's amazing is they put it on the funnels, too.
And kept it for ages. Until, what, 1971?
Yeah, almost a century. Talk about brand consistency.
And here's something interesting. That same year, 1885, they dipped their toes into something else.
Ah, the pleasure cruise.
Exactly. The Rotterdam II did a trip through the Kiel Canal up to Copenhagen.
So even back then, alongside the main transatlantic business,
They were already testing the waters, quite literally, for leisure travel. A little hint of the future.
definitely makes you wonder. And the expansion continued, right?
Yeah.
Bigger ships towards the end of the century.
Yeah, Rotterdam III in 1897, and then the Statendam in 98.
That was their first one over 10,000 GRT, wasn't it? Gross register tons.
Yeah, a measure of the ship's internal volume, so getting quite large.
And by their 25th anniversary, 1898, the numbers are just staggering.
Over 400,000 immigrants transported from Europe to North America.
It really puts it in perspective. They weren't just moving goods, they were moving people, shaping history on a massive scale.
That human element is so central to their early story.
Absolutely. And heading into the 20th century, the ships just kept getting bigger.
Dealt by famous shipyards, too, like Bloom plus Voss.
Right. Ships like the Potsdam, Rindam, Noordam, One, all over 12,000 GRT. These were serious vessels.
Cutting edge for their time. But then there was a big shift behind the scenes, wasn't there? Ownership.
Yes, in 1902, they became part of IMM, the International Mercantile Marine Company.
That was J.P. Morgan's big shipping conglomerate, right? Trying to control prices.
Exactly. A price-fixing cartel, essentially. And interestingly, the connection wasn't really shouted from the rooftops at first.
Oh, how so?
Well, when William Peary from Harland and Wolff Shipyard approached them, the IMM link wasn't disclosed. A bit of corporate maneuvering, perhaps.
Interesting. So under IMM, the expansion continued. Even bigger ships.
Oh, yes. Harland and Wolff built the next generation, the New Amsterdam, in 1905.
And the really big one, the Rotterdam III in 1908, over 24,000 tons.
Truly grand ships, representing the peak of that era, really.
But then, World War I changed everything.
Dramatically. Their biggest ship planned yet, the Statendam II, launched in 1914.
Right on the cusp of the war.
Exactly. It was immediately requisitioned by the British, became a troop ship called Justitia.
And it didn't survive the war, did it?
No, sadly sunk by a U-boat in 1918. NASM did get some compensation, though. Steel, apparently.
Still, a huge blow. And even though the Netherlands was neutral,
Neutrality didn't mean safety at sea. They lost 5 ships during the war.
the Eemdijk, Blommersdijk, others too, mines, submarines, over 30,000 GRT lost.
A significant hit to their fleet. But something else was happening during the war years.
Ownership again.
Right. Dutch investors started buying back shares. By 1917, they owned half of IMM's stake in HAL.
Grinding it back under more Dutch control during uncertain times makes sense.
And then there was that slightly strange incident in 1918, Angry.
Ah, yes. The U.S. seizing neutral ships within its territory for the war effort.
9 HAL ships were seized temporarily, like the Rindam, which actually served as the USS Rindam.
Wow. Most were returned, though, right?
Well, except one, the Osterdyk. But still, quite an event, having your commercial ships pressed into military service like that.
It really shows how intertwined shipping and global conflicts were.
Definitely. Moving into the interwar years, we see innovation picking up again.
Technology advancement.
Yes, steam turbines. Introduced on the Maasdam and Edam III in 1921, more efficient power.
And they weren't just sticking to steam where they motor ships came in, too.
Also in 1921, the Dinteldijk and Dijk. First motor ships.
Primarily for cargo, though. Refrigerated cargo.
Mostly, yes. But they did have some passenger berths, so still keeping that mixed-use idea going.
And then there's the story of the Statinum. Took a while to get finished.
Oh, yes. Laid down in 1921, but funding issues caused huge delays.
Needed a government loan to finally get her sailing in 1929.
Right into the teeth of the Great Depression, but surprisingly, she did well. Economical ship.
Used for both transatlantic runs and Caribbean cruises, right?
Yeah.
Adapting.
Exactly. Shows their resilience. And they were expanding routes, too.
West Coast USA via the Panama Canal.
By 1930, yes. Even teaming up with the Royal Mail Lines for some refrigerated cargo routes.
I was looking
for
that.
New opportunity.
Which leads us to a really iconic ship, 1937.
Ah, the New Amsterdam.
Retta.
What a vessel.
Became a real symbol for the Dutch, didn't it? The darling of the Dutch.
Absolutely. Largest in the Dutch merchant fleet, over 36,000 GRT, hailed as a ship of tomorrow.
And its image. That became the company logo later on.
It did. From 1983 right up to the present. Shows how significant that ship was.
A true emblem. But then, another shadow falls. World War II.
And this time, the impact was even more devastating. 13 ships lost. Over 140,000 GRT.
Early losses from mines. Binnendijk, Spaarndam.
And then the German invasion of the Netherlands in 1940 hit hard.
Ships destroyed in Rotterdam itself.
Yes, the Statinum, the Boschdijk, Dinteldijk, all lost in the fighting or aftermath. The Boschdijk was even used for target practice, apparently.
Grim stuff.
Just awful. But again, the company contributed to the war effort, right? Massively. They chartered most of their big liners to the British government, except the New Amsterdam.
So ships like the Penland and Westerland became troop ships?
Correct. Carrying vital personnel across dangerous waters.
And the New Amsterdam eventually joined the war effort, too.
In October 1940, she had an incredible war record. Sailed 500,000 miles, carried over 400,000 Allied personnel. A real workhorse.
But the cost, the human cost, was immense.
Tragically so. Nearly 200 people connected to the line died in wartime sinkings.
The worst being the Zaandam, sunk by U-174.
Yes, in 1942. 135 lives lost in that one incident. Other ships, too, like the Beemsterdijk, Maasdam. It's a sobering part of their history.
The resilience needed to come back from that.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom.
Truly remarkable. And after the war, they played another key role in moving people.
Dutch immigrants, right?
Yeah.
Canada and other places.
Exactly. Facilitating that post-war migration wave. The transatlantic routes started up again, too.
Rotterdam to Hoboken resumed. But some ports had changed.
Yeah, Boulogne was badly damaged, so they switched to Le Havre for a while. Later added ports like Cobb in Ireland, Quebec, Montreal, even Bremerhaven in Germany by the 60s.
Adapting the network.
Yeah.
And then came a ship that really signaled the future.
The Rotterdam V, launched in 1958.
Took over from New Amsterdam as the flagship. And she was designed differently.
Specifically designed for both transatlantic crossings and luxury cruising. That was the key shift.
Because air travel was starting to take over the Atlantic run.
Precisely. By the late 60s, scheduled liner services just weren't viable anymore.
The last one was the New Amsterdam II in 1971.
That's right. The end of an era and the beginning of Holland America Line as purely a cruise line.
And they marked this shift visually too, didn't they? New look in 71.
Big time. New dark blue hulls for the whole fleet, new house flag, a real rebranding.
And a major business move that year as well, Alaska.
Yes, acquiring West Tours, the Alaskan tour company. That really cemented their focus on the Pacific Northwest cruise market.
Became Holland America Line West Tours for a while. Built hotels, bought a train line.
No, Rocky Mountaineer, yeah. Diversifying within the leisure travel sector. Very smart.
Then another shift reincorporating in the U.S. in 78. moving HQ.
To Stamford, Connecticut, further embedding themselves in the North American market.
Followed by new ships in the 80s, purpose-built for cruising.
The New Amsterdam and Noordam, 3 modern cruise ships.
And another new logo, linking the heritage, the New Amsterdam 2, image with exploration. Henry Hudson's have Maine.
A nice touch, connecting past and present. The late 80s saw more acquisitions, too. Windstar, Home Lines.
Renaming the Homeric to Westerdam 2, building up that cruise portfolio.
But then came the biggest change of all, 1989.
Carnival Corporation steps in.
Acquires the whole organization. Huge deal, 1.2 billion guilders.
So the cruise line became part of this massive global entity, though the original Dutch owners kept some interests.
Yes, they formed the HAL Trust and HAL Investments, actually using the old green, white, green NASM flag for their logo, a little nod to the past.
But for the cruise line itself, it was a new era under Carnival.
Definitely. And Carnival's cash injection made a difference.
Refurbishing the Westerdam 2, ordering new ships from Fincantieri in Italy.
Starting with the Statendam in 1993, though maybe surprisingly, they sold the beloved Rotterdam in 97.
End of an era for that ship. But more new ones came along.
Another quartet, including Rotterdam 6 and Amsterdam.
Ones with the twin funnels echoing the Rotterdam V.
Exactly, a nice design continuity. And they bought their own private island, too.
Little San Salvador in the Bahamas, yeah. Renamed it Half Moon Cay in 96. Still a popular stop.
As the new century dawned, older ships were sold off, the name simplified back to just Holland America Line.
And then came the newer classes of ships. Vista class from 2002, Signature class from 2008.
Constantly modernizing the fleet. The first ships actually commissioned under Carnival started leaving around 2015.
And they doubled down on Alaska again, buying the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway in 2018.
Keeping that strong connection. Even their smallest ship, Princendom 2, was sold in 2019.
And then, like everyone, they hit the massive disruption of the pandemic.
Yeah, COVID-19. Unfortunately, the Zaandam 3 and Rotterdam got a lot of media attention due to outbreaks.
A really tough time for the whole industry, and it led to selling off more ships.
4 ships went in July 2020, including the co-flagships Rotterdam 6 and Amsterdam 1.
But they also brought in a new Rotterdam.
Yes, the ship being built as Rundum, Frosso was renamed Rotterdam some 7th and entered service in late 2020. Fleet renewal continues.
So today, the fleet is made up of these Rotterdam, Vista, Signature, and the newest Pinnacle class ships.
A long, long way from that single steamship crossing in 1872.
It really is. So wrapping this up, what an incredible journey.
From that 19th century steamship company focused on Atlantic crossings, migration, trade.
Navigating through 2 world wars, huge losses, but also playing vital roles.
Adapting completely when air travel changed the game, shifting focus entirely to cruising.
Expanding into new markets like Alaska, becoming part of a huge corporation. It's quite the evolution.
And that legacy is still there, in the ship names, the history they carry.
It definitely is. It makes you ponder, doesn't it? Thinking about this whole 150-plus year story.
All the changes, the challenges they face, the resilience.
What does Holland America Line's journey really tell us about how travel itself has changed? And maybe about that constant human drive, to connect across oceans.
Whether it was out of necessity, like those early immigrants, or for leisure and exploration today.
Exactly. It's something to think about. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.